All right, I got to make another video, man. I just had another idea. I've had this idea for a long time, but it just came to me like in a pretty good form here. Um, what I want to talk about is the sacchadic eye movements that happen during a thought, specifically in the first segment of my thought. And if you've watched a few of my videos, you probably know about the about this. Up in here, the first segment there, and then the 5 segments to get to the top, and then the point on the last part of it. I just want to talk about whenever I saw the dark circle way up here, the very first time after the light was bouncing off, or its reflection was pushing against itself until it found it. And when it readjusted, I saw the entire circle because my eyes were looked at it. As it appeared close to me, my eyes looked at the closeness. It was a dark circle, just pure black, flat circle. And it had a radius to it, and that's when I noticed the middle of it. And when my eyes focused from the outer edge to the middle, that's when the words came out. It was activated. And the point of synchronization was way up here, from between the left and the right hemispheres. And the process of my eyes going from around this circle's edge to the center would be like looking real near. It's like my eyes were focused to see something real near to me. And then when it focused to the middle, it was seeing something very far away. And this is how language processing works in the brain. Is as you process the motor output, the prosody that you use, those timings that are injected into the thought itself, your eyes become dilated. As initially you're looking at something very far away, and then as you're processing it, you're moving out here, and then all of a sudden you're looking at something closer to you, and your eyes actually focus to a closer. And so by the time you reach the end of the thought, end of the segment of language, if it's a focused point and it has, a concise meaning to it, I'm guessing on that, but it seems to be the case, that by the time you get to the end, your focal point is really close. You see things really close up to you. So I saw some things, and I know this is true. When I got real close, the whole circle was a point, and I landed on it just in time before the whole thought dissolved away. I was on the back edge of time across this whole damn thought. But anyways, the process of seeing from all the way far away, you're looking way in the distance, and as you process the motor output, you start focusing your eyes so that you see real close. You're going from seeing very far away, and at the end of the statement, you're seeing very close in your mind's eye. Maybe it's your frontal eye fields that do this. Maybe it's something to do with your superior colliculi. I'm not 100% sure, on this, but I know this is a very important process for language processing. And whenever I turn my eyes right here, when I had to turn my eyes to the right and look at the corner of my eye to see this pattern of sound I talked about in one of my other videos, the turning to the right automatically adjusted my eyes from seeing very close to seeing far away. And the far away that I saw was the beginning of the thought in sound form, in a sound wave function, where you had the light of acceleration that moved me forward by processing this light, and then you have the darkness signatures intermingled with the sounds that move me to perpendicular to that direction of acceleration, and also made my eyes see closer to me until I got all the way nearsighted. That's the end of the thought. Turn right, and in that process of turning, your eyes go back to where they were in the beginning of the thought, seeing very far away, and then grabbed it somehow. My ocular motor, or somehow your frontal eye fields or your superior colliculus is involved with grabbing the perceived energy of sounds as a pattern. Anyways, when I grabbed it and rotated it back, the rotating back would then dilate so that I would see closer, and it just laid that down as an image behind me. It's exactly what it did, and they were like hieroglyphic images that were literally inside the path that I'd moved to get there. That path might actually change. It's like a staircase on the way up. That first segment was, I'd go forward and then right, forward, and then I'd stop producing. I would go forward by head motor output, then I'd pause to hear it and move right and forward, pause, producing language and then pausing, producing language and pausing. And at the very end, it would just look at I'd grab the whole end of it, and then turning back, my eyes would just open up naturally, as they did by processing this language. Through these perpendicular times of prosody, the dilation would occur. So as I grabbed this and laid it down behind me, I went through these prosodic automatic eye dilations, so that by the time I got back straight forward, all this stuff was laid behind me through a far away to a very close perceptual window that laid the images down. And then I was looking close again. I was looking real close, and that's why I had to activate the next segment, because it was far away. So my eyes had to go from seeing something near and close to me to focus to very far away, as far away as I could see, and that would be when the next words came out. But anyways, I had to say that because it was a thought I had, and actually an understanding. Now how all these pieces go from one thought to the next, each one is seeing as far away as you can see to seeing as close as you can see, and then laying it down. So as you access a thought, your eyes go from seeing as close as they can see to seeing as far as they can see, and then they go from that far away to being close again. So it's a wave function. It goes, you're seeing something very close to you, then you're seeing something very far away, and it goes back to being close. And then to get the visual understanding, it goes something very far away, and then it goes back close again. And then this time it takes to do this is just the turn of an eye. It takes a turn of an eye in this time, where this time it takes the time that your muscle movements have to actually move and pause to translate an image to someone else's mind. And then this is the image that gets translated through a visual representation that's really fast. It's hella fast. As fast as your eyes can move from far away to near as they turn, that's how fast it processes the sound imprint, or forget what they call it, the spectrogram or spectrograph. Whenever you process that sound pattern of the entire segment into an understanding, it happens as fast as your eyes can turn. It literally happens that fast. And I don't know exactly what mechanisms brought those images into this space here. It has something to do with the inferior colliculi, which is probably down here. It's in the brainstem, but it's very complicated. I don't understand it, but I'm pretty sure it was the inferior colliculi. And for reasons I'll bring up in later videos, I'm sure. Just like all these little spheres here, they originated from the superior colliculus. And then once the movements translate that light into a sound energy, it comes out of the inferior colliculus as an understanding. Anyways, it might be the reverse of that too. Who knows? I'm not a neuroscientist. I just got a bachelor's degree. I should have spent my whole life pursuing this educationally, but it is what it is. So if you wonder what your eyes have to do with talking, it literally goes from seeing very far away to seeing very close up, as the wave function of the language of a thought comes out from beginning to end. And, who knows what happens in the left hemisphere? It's just feeding the light into a synchronized point, so that your eyes can tell your tongue how to move, because your eyes can see the light, and wherever there's not light, that's where your tongue goes to shape. Every little sphere that's processed here has a shape inside of it, where the light takes a shape, and then your tongue either moves through the light, or maybe there's a darkness where the tongue has to move through and the whole sphere fills up with light. I'm not exactly sure which one is true. I saw both of them happen, and I didn't see it happening while I was moving through this empty space here. It was just a distance with time processing the motor output, and then time going perpendicular to it. Time going to the motor output, time perpendicular. It's just time here. Up here in the synchronization point is where the actual mouth and muscles of my language expression was contained. It was exactly right there. It wasn't over here, over there. It was right there. Even though the left hemisphere goes down a curve as the light is consumed, this curve is connected to this, and it's connected to it in the way that the apparent acceleration through the light moves me. Whether it really moved me or not, or whether it was just an illusion of my visual system, I don't know. Really don't know, but there is a correlation there, so that once they're synchronized in the beginning, as the position here moves along this curve, and then the light is consumed down a curve, this point on this curve would know exactly where this point on this curve is. And so they're still synchronized right here, just through the past. Well, through the past on one side, from the left, they're synchronized in the past, and in the right hemisphere, they're synchronized in the future, or, maybe where the present meets. But anyways, I think I said what I needed to say. Anytime you start a thought, you're seeing something really near to you to seeing something very far away. And that activates that space-time that contained you and your consciousness and what you thought to be expressed into words. Your image of your thought gets expressed into words. And then by the time you get to the end of the thought, your vision has dilated so you're seeing very close to you. And then to process it, you see far away and close again real quick. Like I said, in that little wave function there. That little wave like this. There, that explains everything. This is your motor output from beginning to end, and this is your visual interpretation of it. And so anyways, never mind on that, I'm just playing. Anyways, so vision has a lot to do with our process of being able to speak what we want to speak, especially if we have a lot of words stored up at one time that you have to start at the beginning and get to the end. Usually we just make stuff up as we go and try to fill it in as fast as we can. But in this case, this wasn't the case in this thought. This had 5 full segments of attention, all fully complete, like saturated. It's pretty much as my mind could hold. I was a junior at a university classroom, and it was pretty thick. Each little segment here was, I would say, it's 3 or 4 sentences. It might have been just one sentence each, though, but I don't think so. If they were a sentence, they were a very long, intricate sentence. And then the final point was just one more segment. So how the vision, goes from seeing as far away as it can to seeing as close as it can in this distance 5 different times. And then it does the same thing in one distance in our brain. The physical distance is also the same. So it's kind of weird. I can't put my finger on it. If I could, I'd be adjusting the laws of relativity to form, to fit consciousness, which is going to change because there is a space-time inside of our minds that does not exactly correlate with the space-time outside in the world, because obviously there's 5 little space-times of one thought fit into one area over here. And somehow when you get to the top, the dynamics change. Now you're back in correlation with space-time of the universe. Whereas this is like your past of your mind from many moments ago, if you form a thought from the substance of listening to someone that had content to give you, Anyways, I don't know if any of that makes sense. All right, later videos on the thalamus, possibly the amygdala, because actually I saw this picture here when I was coming from the fight or flight syndrome. So I was in the middle of the amygdala, hippocampus, like in the center of a circle coming up. So that's actually kind of hard to interpret. But then again, I was starting here, and I know this, if I've given reasons in my past videos why I believe this was Broca's area, because it controlled motor output and prosody. It didn't have any motor output at all. It just moved along an empty space that allowed the light to be processed in the left hemisphere, and then it stopped it and moved perpendicular to it. So there was probably no activity over here besides releasing inhibition and actively releasing it and then holding it, actively releasing it and holding it. So there really probably no activity could be read by any machines there, I don't think. All the activity here was over here in the real time of our minds, transferring these compressed images into words, Anyways, who knows? I'm going to bed.